What if Finn's adventures didn't happen after the apocalypse, but after his death? The Land of Ooo is strange. It's a place where time folds in on itself and where magic and mutation coexist. It's a land where nothing truly dies, and rather, it just changes. But there's something about Finn that has always felt a little too detached for me. He doesn't remember where he came from, and he barely talks about his past. In this video, we're going to explore a theory that may just change how you see the entire show. The idea that Finn isn't actually living in Ooo, but rather Ooo is his grave. There's an ancient idea, one that shows up in the Tibetan texts, that speaks of a state between life and death, a place built from memory, emotion, and everything left unresolved. It's called Bardo. The details, we'll go into those later. Just know this, it's not a dream, and it's not the afterlife. It's something else. A space where time breaks, the rules bend, and your story isn't quite finished. And for someone like Finn, a place like that might not feel like a prison. It might feel like Ooo. And this theory starts with a pillow fort. Puhoi doesn't feel like a typical episode. It begins in the middle of a storm, not just outside, but inside Finn's head. He's spiraling over something small, overthinking a joke that Flame Princess didn't laugh at.
I told her a joke the other day, and she didn't even laugh or anything. Guess it's over between us.
And instead of talking it out, he does something very specific. He isolates himself. He steps away from the real world. He climbs into a soft, warm structure built from comfort and nostalgia, and disappears. At first, the change is subtle. Finn crawls through the fort expecting it to end somewhere in the treehouse, but it doesn't. It opens into a different world, one made entirely of pillows, a village of soft architecture, harmless dragons, and friendly strangers who immediately accept him. Within minutes, he saves the town, meets a girl, and starts building a new life. It's too strange to be real, but too vivid to be a dream. And crucially, the door behind him disappears.
What the? Door's gone?
That's the first sign, because in the teachings of Tibetan Buddhism, the soul's first step after death often mirrors life, but softer and more forgiving, a projection of what the spirit needs to feel safe. In Finn's case, that means a world without danger, one full of comfort and admiration, simple problems that he knows how to fix. It's a realm that wraps itself around his words without forcing him to confront them. He's not running towards something, he's being held. Time in this world begins to melt. Days, then years. As Finn gets older, he has children. He chops trees and plays games and grows a beard. He lives an entire life inside the Bardo, because that's what it allows. It's not limited by time, it's shaped by feeling. And the longer he stays, the more disconnected he becomes from the memory of who he was before. When he finally searches for a way out, it's not from fear or conflict, it's from a quiet ache, the need to remember something he's forgotten. And then he finds the doorway, or maybe it finds him. And just before he can pass through, the people he's come to love begin to cry. His wife, his children. They know he doesn't belong, and what they are really afraid of isn't that he's leaving, it's that he was never really there. And then Finn dies. Yeah, not in a blaze of glory or a fight, it just slips away from him. Old, worn, loved, and completely at peace. In the Tibetan Book of Dead, it's said that when a soul is finally ready, the hallucination breaks, the illusion collapses, and the next stage begins. And that's exactly what we see. Finn's peaceful death transitions into a surreal, celestial sequence, flying through light, sound, and even some monsters, until he's suddenly reborn, back in the treehouse, once again young and confused, as if nothing ever happened. Jake asks what he dreamed about, but Finn doesn't remember.
Now what about this dream?
And that forgetfulness, that's important, because according to Bardo's teachings, most souls forget everything from the in-between the moment they re-enter the world. But something always lingers, whether it be a shift in emotion, a release of pain, or the subtle feeling that something was resolved. And in Finn's case, is Flame Princess. She calls him and tells him the joke was funny. The thing he couldn't let go of, the heartbreak that sent him into the pillow fort, has already passed, like it was never real, like it didn't need to be. But here's the thing, this isn't just a one-off. Puhoi feels less like a filler episode and more like a blueprint. It shows us what Finn's entire journey might actually be, a cycle of death, memory, and rebirth, where Ooo itself is just another layer of Bardo. Because if you look closely, Ooo already acts like a liminal space. It's not quite the past, it's not quite the future, it's full of ruins of a dead civilization, but also life blooming in the weirdest, most colorful ways. Candy people, living video games, and a vampire who sings. This isn't your average post-apocalypse. It's too dreamlike, too personal, almost like Finn's subconscious got handed the keys and said, alright dude, build your own afterlife. And let's be real, any normal teenage boy who got to design his own eternal playground would absolutely include a stretchy dog best friend who can never die, a princess who occasionally likes you back, and a sword that changes shape every few seasons just so the toy sales never dip. But the illusion isn't perfect. We see it often. Ooo glitches and it bends, and sometimes it shows cracks. Sometimes Finn meets versions of himself that don't line up with reality, like Farm World Finn, who lives in an alternate timeline where the Mushroom War never happened, or Shoko, his past life, whose missing arm eerily mirrors Finn's own future journey. These aren't just coincidences, they feel like Bardo flashbacks, memories bleeding through from other lifetimes, resurfacing in a world that's supposed to be holding him together. And no episode makes that clearer than the Hall of Egress. At first, it just looks like a dungeon puzzle. Finn gets trapped in this strange cave full of riddles, and the only exit is to move forward with blind faith. It sounds simple enough, right? Except every time he tries to leave with his eyes open, he's instantly teleported back to the start. With no progress, no escape, it's just an endless loop. Eventually, he changes his approach. He closes his eyes and stops clinging to control. He feels his way forward through the maze step by step. After endless struggle, he finally hears Jake's voice from the surface.
Jake!
And he claws his way out. He finally escapes, only to learn the cruel truth. The moment he opens his eyes, it all resets. Freedom in the Hall of Egress is only an illusion. And that's what makes this one of the most quietly brilliant episodes in the entire series. The maze can't be mapped, every shortcut fails, and we share Finn's frustration. The whole thing feels deliberately confusing, and that confusion mirrors his own journey. He's trapped in a system that refuses to bend to logic. So Finn adapts. He accepts the rule. The only way out is forward, eyes closed. And if he opens them too soon, he's thrown back to the beginning, again and again. So he stops opening them altogether. He chooses blindness, living like that for weeks, because he's learned the hardest lesson. Forcing it only brings him back to square one. And that's where the metaphor sharpens. This is about growing up, about surrender, about how some doors only open when you stop trying to open them. And it's deeply personal. To everyone else, the cave is just a patch of grass. Jake can't even see it.
There's just a bunch of grass here.
What? Let me see. Dang it.
Only Finn knows the burden he's carrying, and only he can walk that path. After weeks of darkness, something shifts. Finn stops resisting. He learns patience, he learns trust, and suddenly the loop breaks. He stumbles outside again, changed, almost reborn. This isn't just a clever puzzle, it's a metaphor for death and acceptance. In Tibetan texts, the way to move through Bardo isn't by fighting, it's by letting go. And that's exactly what Finn does in the Hall of Egress. Surrender to the unknown, and only then can you move forward. And then there's islands. On the surface, it's a road trip to meet Finn's people, but narratively, it feels more like a past life regression. Finn sails across the ocean, literally leaving the world of Ooo behind, and discovers who he was before, a human from a sheltered society that tried to escape the chaos of the world. He meets people, he learns his history, and suddenly Ooo doesn't feel like just some random fantasy land anymore. It feels like the next chapter. Like Finn already lived one life in the islands, and Ooo is what comes after. And the fact that Finn ultimately returns to Ooo instead of staying with the humans, that's huge. It's him choosing the Bardo, choosing to continue working out his soul's journey instead of retreating into comfort. Because the islands represent what the Bardo texts call clinging, the temptation to fall back into what's safe, what's familiar, instead of pushing forward. Finn could stay there. He could live out a quiet, peaceful existence with people just like him, but he doesn't. He chooses to go back to the chaos, the magic, the unresolved, which makes sense. His soul isn't finished. He still has things to face, and so the journey continues, not in the real world of humans, but in the liminal space of Ooo. In other words, Finn doesn't reject the afterlife. He rejects rebirth. He chooses to stay in the in-between until he's ready. And what makes this whole Bardo theory truly believable is Together Again, one of the most famous episodes in the series, and it literally begins with Finn waking up in the afterlife. There's not really any subtext or a metaphor, it's spelled out for us. He's dead.
You did it, Finn! Everyone's alive!
Yeah!
He's wandering through surreal, shifting landscapes that look exactly like the descriptions of Bardo. He meets guides, he relives moments, he sees souls who haven't moved on, and just like in the teachings, the form of the afterlife is shaped by memory and longing. But the most important part of all of this is Jake, Finn's ultimate companion, his other half, the one thing he's always too afraid to lose. And in the afterlife, Finn's journey isn't about fighting monsters or solving riddles, it's about finding Jake, letting go of fear, and accepting that they are both on the same path. When they finally reunite, it's not a victory in the traditional sense, it's release. They walk into the light together, side by side, at peace. It's the exact culmination of everything the show has been hinting at. Ooo isn't just an apocalyptic wasteland, it's the Bardo, and Finn's whole story, from the Pillow World to the Hall of Egress, even so far as to the islands, has been preparing him for this moment. The more you line these episodes up, the harder it is to ignore. Finn's story doesn't play out like a boy surviving the apocalypse. It plays out like a soul trying to resolve itself. Every adventure is just another hallucination shaped by his regrets and longings. Every villain is a warped mirror of something inside of him. The Lich is death itself, cold and inevitable. Ice King is loneliness taken to the extreme. Fern is Finn's own self-hatred, grown into a thorny doppelganger. And what defeats them isn't power, it is always acceptance, friendship, forgiveness, and moving on. So maybe that's why Finn feels so timeless, so detached, like he's never fully here. Because in truth, he isn't. Ooo isn't Earth's future, it's Finn's grave. And every quest, every sword swing, every silly song with Jake is just part of his journey through the in-between. Not to save the world, but to save himself. And maybe that's what Adventure Time was telling us all along. That growing up, facing loss, and letting go isn't the end of the adventure, it is the point.